Hey, it's Friday, and this is the podcast of Morrison Heights. Welcome to Morrison Heights Family Connect. I'm Tim Peabody, and our guest today is a longtime member of Morrison Heights and a great friend. She is Whitney Caves. Whitney is a licensed professional counselor at Crossroads Christian Counseling here in Clinton. And so we're glad to have you on the program today.
Yep, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
How are you and your family doing?
We're doing pretty well. We're doing pretty good. Oh, look, there we are.
Hey, Will and Lily. Lily's 3.
Lily is 3.
Well, she is a sweet one. I hear she's an extrovert.
She is. She is.
This is a tough time for a 3-year-old extrovert.
It is. She is extremely extroverted, and she just loves to be around people, and she loves friends. And so she's got a lot of extra social energy right now, but she's hanging in there. She's making it.
What are you guys doing different at your house during the coronavirus crisis?
Well, Will and I are both working. We're both working at home, and Lily has not been. I work 3 days a week. I see clients 3 days a week. So
you're seeing clients on like Zoom or something like that?
It's a telehealth system that we were so lucky that we had it. We'd never used it, but we had it in place through the system that we use at work. So it's like Zoom.
Much more secure than if you had been using.
It is.
Zoom has upgraded since the start of this, but early on it was not very secure.
Yes, it is incredibly secure.
Good.
It's called Theranist. And so I'm seeing people through that. And Lily hasn't been, she used to go to a school 3 days a week, and she hasn't been there, I guess, in about 9 weeks. And so it's different. It is definitely different.
I bet. What is she learning to do right now? What's her thing?
She is actually, we have been so fortunate. My best friend is also a member here, Susan Boyd. So Lily has gone to Susan's house, which is right on the edge kind of Old Town. She goes there for a couple of hours in the mornings, and then Will goes and gets her, and she comes and takes her nap. So she's still gotten to see Susan, and they go and they walk around.
That's
and
fun.
Susan is an educator, so Susan has been educating her during this time.
Where does Susan work? I didn't realize she was in education.
She works in the central office for the Pearl School District.
Okay.
And their math curriculum coordinator. So she's very mathematical. So Lily's got to spend a lot of time with her, and she has been a superhero to us, and kind of the only person that we've been seeing during this time. So that's what Lily has done in the mornings, and then we play outside a lot, and we walk a lot. I'm very tied up with my work during the day. It's, not something where I can come in and out of counseling sessions. Will has really been unbelievable.
Good for him.
He really takes care of her. Will and Susan take care of her completely during the day until I can come out. So I'm really grateful.
Yeah, that's good. Now, Will, I don't think of as an extrovert. Is he an extrovert?
Yeah.
He is?
Yeah, he's an extrovert for sure.
So this is hard for him, too, to not be around people as much as
It's
he
the whole extroverted family. And so if someone is on a walk and stops by our yard for a minute or something, I feel like all 3 of us just shout at them. just shout.
I want to give out your address so people can just drive by.
Yes, we will talk and talk and talk to you. Lily loves to go through a drive-through and for me to roll down her window, and she will just say, "Hi, my name is Lily Caves. My name is Lily Caves. My name is Lily Caves." Over and over.
This is what it's come to, America. Kids have to go to drive-throughs to have social interaction.
She's hanging in there, though. She's hanging in. Yeah.
Oh, bless her. Well, how have you guys connected with the church during this time? What's that been like?
I have always, since we have been members, since we've even attended Morrison Heights, I have been grateful to be here. And I have never been so grateful to be here as I am now. So we're in the Muskogee Life Group, which we love it so much. It's just such a gift to us. So that first Sunday, maybe it was the second Sunday that we met as life group. That's right, huh? So the first Sunday, I think we found out kind of late in the week that church was going to be off. And then I think it was the next Sunday that we picked up with life groups. And we were like, so we met as a life group, and we were like different people that day. Like after we got to meet with everybody, and all of us really think the world of Mr. Randy and Miss Vicky. Like, I mean, you know, that we think the world of them is just a drastic understatement. Oh, I feel like I could cry about it. We just love them so much. And so it is just so good for all of us to see them and hear from them. Like it feels like a lifeline every Sunday. And then also we have done some, I didn't know Marco Polo before all of this, but it's like I guess you know it. Do you know what it is, Marco Polo? It's like a video messaging
Yeah, that's a good way
I
to put
guess.
it.
Yeah.
Video messaging.
And we have pretty much this whole time been in some groups. Right now we're in groups of girls, and we're going through some proverbs together.
Nice.
And so we do that. We try to do it before 8 in the morning. I haven't done mine yet, and it's like 10. So I'll catch it. I'll catch it after this. But so it's just so good to see one of them and hear their prayer request. And I don't know what we would have done without it. It's
I'm
been
so
good.
glad to hear that. Now, these are ladies from your life group mostly that are in this Marco Polo group?
Yeah, they are.
Nice. Well, good. I'm glad you guys are doing that. I remember talking to Vicky about it whenever she was getting ready to start that a few months ago. So I'm glad to hear it's going well.
So well.
Well, good. Well, we're looking forward to a time when we can get back together on campus. It looks like it will be soon, not soon enough for all of us, but it looks like possibly June 6th we'll have on-campus worship.
Okay.
So it'll be way different. You know, we have to
so.
have a lot of guidelines in place for that at the beginning. But I believe Dr. Greg will be sending out today with the Hope Connection. I believe he'll be sending out some guidelines for what that will look like. And so, of course, you know, we'll take questions and, you know, have to make changes and adjustments depending on what the government is advising and depending on what our people need. But we're at least moving in the right direction. We want to get back to meeting together. We want to do it safely. We want to do it responsibly. But we want to do it. We want to see each other.
Yeah.
So the podcast has been great because I get to see somebody. You know, we're here 3 times a week now. We were doing 5 times a week until this week. So it's fun for me to get to interact with folks that I don't normally get to see.
Yeah.
So thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to be in the church, like
Thank
at the
you.
church at all.
We're glad you're here. You want to share a devotion with us today?
Absolutely, I will. So this is, I'm going to read just a couple of quick verses from John 19, and this is actually something that we read. We did like a Lent reading for in our Marco Polo group before Easter, which seems, I really cannot even remember how long ago it was. It seems like yesterday and like 6 months ago. So this was, I'm going to read from a couple of verses from John 19, and this is actually the chapter that, this was my day, like I read this that day. And so Jesus is on the cross, and he's been crucified. And it says in verse 26, when Jesus then saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." From that hour, the disciple took her into his own household. And when I read that day, you know, this was before Easter, so it was much earlier on in the whole COVID experience. It spoke to me so much because in a moment, he is on the cross looking down at them, and in a moment that is so, in his last earthly moments that are so filled with physical and emotional and spiritual pain, and in a moment that is so monumental to all of humanity then and forever, he is still able to look at a person and see them personally. also. And that is the very nature of God, to be able to see and care for something that feels huge, like this whole crisis has felt, but he is also able at the same time to see us individually. As I have gone through this myself and have talked with friends and have worked with clients, this situation is so different for all of us. Some people never stopped working, like they never stopped going in. Some people have lost a job. Some people still have a job, but they haven't been to it in weeks. Some people still do it, and it looks totally different. Some people are trying to work from home with kids in jobs that they were never made to work at home from or have kids running around. It's just so different for everybody. The loss and the pain and the joy and the goodness, it's so different for everybody. And I was so encouraged by this scripture that God is able to take care of this whole big thing that seems so huge, but he also is able to see us as individuals, and that every single one of us matter individually to him. So I have remembered that all these weeks. It was true those weeks ago. It's true now, and it will be true in whatever the coming weeks hold. So it's been a great encouragement to me.
That's good. Thanks for sharing that. When you lead us in prayer, let's remember George Watts. His father is on hospice and just not doing well at all. So we want to remember him in prayer. Will you lead us now?
Absolutely. God, I just thank you so much that you are a good father, that you are good to us. I thank you that you are always with us, even if we don't feel it, but I pray, Father, that we would feel it. I thank you for the gift of community. I thank you for your church. I thank you for what we have been to each other and the ways that we've been able to be there for each other and be present for each other, even if not in person during this time. God, I pray specifically for George Watts, his father on hospice. That is such a difficulty. The lack of contact, the pain, the questions, the not knowing exactly how to handle it and what's right. I just pray over that whole family, that you would go behind them and before them, that you would fill them with your peace, that they would feel your presence, and that you would just guide their path. And Father, I pray those things over all of us, over Morrison Heights, that you would just go before us and make a way for when we get back together, that we would just do that in a way that is safe, in a way that honors you, in a way that honors what the government is asking, and that you would just make a way for us to do it in a way that is good and holy and right. We thank you so much for who you are. We thank you that you are present with us as a whole state and nation and world, but that you are also present with us as individuals. And I ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Whitney, as a licensed professional counselor, I'm sure you have some tips for families going through this time. What would you like to give as far as advice for families with kids or maybe people with emotional issues going through this time? What are your tips?
Okay, so always when people ask me these things, I always want to acknowledge that these things are so personal. And so I would never want to just generalize something and make it seem...
You're such a professional. Just give us the tips.
It's true, and make it seem just too simple. But my most general tips, my first one is please just don't make your kids stare at the news. For the love. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it ever. Ever. But especially don't do it now, which I think at this point most people are not.
So some of us grew up with news on, like NBC Nightly News or something would be on in our house, and the local news would be on in our house.
Sure.
Is the news today different than when we were kids?
What makes it... absolutely. I remember I grew up in South Mississippi, so we watched the New Orleans news. I remember it being on every morning and it being fun. I remember, it being like a fun thing to watch, and the news has definitely changed. And I'm also not suggesting at all to not be informed or to keep your kids in the dark or anything like that, but I just don't see any goodness from blasting the news on a constant cycle into their little ears or into our own ears. So definitely to not be uninformed, but just not to let that be the only voice playing all the time. So that's one tip that I have.
That's good advice.
Absolutely. Something for the little ones, and really for all of us, is not to try to pretend this away. It's hard, and it's hard for a lot of the different reasons that I just pinpointed. When I was talking about John 19, and we don't have to pretend that it isn't. Lily wears out by the end of the day. Yeah. She wears out. Her little spirit just wears out, and we try to tell her, and I see a pretty good mix of children, teenage girls, and then what I would kind of call younger adult women, like kind of capping out probably at their parents' age. But I also work with the adult women as individuals. And even as the kids and the teenagers are wrapping up school, like this week, I've been telling them, hey, this was hard, because it was. And we don't have to pretend that it wasn't. And we tell Lily, sometimes we just hold her at night and tell her, hey, you're doing a good job. Like, this is hard. Like, I know you miss these things, but just because something is hard does not mean that there is not goodness and growth and space for joy. Those two things, like difficulty and trials and goodness and growing, they can exist in the exact same place, and they often do. I would say they most often do. So just to acknowledge for ourselves and for the little ones the difficulties of this whole thing, but also to weigh it out with acknowledging the goodness of it too. So that would be another tip that I have. And then the third one that I want to say, and this is also very general, is I have thought a lot about Moses and the Israelites and the manna that God provided for them. He provided for them day by day. And it was a gift to them, not just in his provision, but in the chance to learn to trust. He gave them the gift of learning to trust him more, and he came through every time. And God split the days into mornings and nights, because we need to go to sleep and we need to try again in the morning. And so I say all that to say, to take this whole thing day by day. And we are wise to look to the future, and there are some things we have to try to plan out. But there are just some things about right now that we cannot know. And so to really acknowledge the difficulties, plan what we can and what we need to, but to focus on the day by day and the goodness in today. And whenever our thoughts start running, to try to do our best, which this is, again, the stuff I don't want to generalize. If this was easy, I wouldn't have a job. Yeah. But to try to bring it back and focus, I have all I need today. God has given me what I need today.
That's good.
Yeah.
What are we going to do when the last episode of The Last Dance, that Michael Jordan documentary, when we've watched it? We'll cross that bridge when we get
Yes, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Yes.
Thank you for being with us today. We didn't get a chance to talk about Charlie.
Oh, Charlie.
Is his leg okay?
We don't know.
Hey, there's Charlie.
My goodness, there's Charlie. There's Charlie and Will. Charlie's 6th birthday was yesterday.
He's not old enough to have leg problems?
I know. So he's at the doctor right now. Lily was very disturbed whenever she woke up and learned that he was at the doctor. He's a mini Australian Shepherd. If you were looking for a dog,
you can't sell your dog on our podcast.
he's the best. He's so smart. He's so sweet. But he, I think his little world will be rocked whenever we go back. He hangs out by Will while he does his work all day, every day.
That's the truth. I keep telling my kids.
Yeah.
Our dog is going to tell stories to her grandchildren about the coronavirus and how it was heaven.
But he's liked having us home. Maybe he's just been running and walking more than normal. And
Hey, maybe so.
that little leg's aching him. So
Let us know in the comments how he does.
I
at the
will. I
appointment
have a
today.
feeling he's going to make it.
People want to know. Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely.
Whitney Caves, licensed professional counselor. This is the daily podcast of Morrison Heights, except we're not daily anymore. We're 3 times a week. That's because we're getting busier here, and our guests are getting busier, and it's getting close to time to reopen. So we will see you again on Monday. We like it whenever people hit like or share or comment, so please do that and share your photos and videos with the hashtag MHBC together. This is Morrison Heights Family Connect. We love our family.